I'd like to call this meeting, the Clay County Commission, to order. We will begin with our invocation, and today we have Pastor Christian Williams with us. Pastor, if you'd come forward and introduce yourself.
Good evening. Christian Williams, the pastor of the Grove Church in Gladstone, Missouri. Please join me in prayer. Dear, wise, and loving Father, on behalf of all who are gathered here today, thank you. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health that we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to know you. Lord, I thank you for this commission and these men and women who serve on it. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to lead amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times in this place. Lord, grant them a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people. Give them a keen thirst for justice and rightness. Give them confidence in what is good and fitting. And grant them the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. Lord, grant them personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray that you would guide them in the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live, work in, and visit our county. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte?
Here.
Commissioner Withington?
Here.
Commissioner Lawson? Here. Commissioner Wagner?
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson, okay, oh, no problem. Next on the agenda, next is the approval of our agenda. Is there a motion related to the approval of this evening's agenda? Commissioner Wagner.
Yes, move to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion has been made to approve the agenda for this evening. Discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next on our agenda is public comments. Is there anyone wishing to come forward and make any comments at this time? Seeing none. That brings us to the consent agenda. Administrator?
The consent agenda allows the Commission to act upon items considered to be routine and approved in one motion. These may include items that have been reviewed by the Commission in a prior session. There will be no separate discussion unless a Commissioner requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. There are 4 items on this evening's consent agenda. The first item is Commission meeting minutes for May 24th, June 7th, June 14th, and June 21st. Resolution 2023-257 is a renewing a service agreement with Tank Management Services for the Parks Department. Resolution 2023-256 is approving and accepting the attached letter of credit for a 2-year development maintenance of the road and right-of-way of Louisiana Point subdivision. And Resolution 2023-258 is renewing the Passport Service Offering Master Agreement for the Parks Department.
Is there a motion related to the consent agenda? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Motion has been made for the approval of this evening's consent agenda. Discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
That brings us to this evening's regular agenda. First item on the regular agenda is 2023-253. Administrator?
Resolution 2023-253 is a request for commission action for a transfer within a fund in the amount of $33,745 within the Parks Fund, and Director Driscoll is here to provide information to the commission.
Please proceed.
Good evening, Mike Driscoll, Parks Director. We asked for this transfer within the Park Fund from line item 233, machine and equipment lease, into Park line, 740, 233 to 740, 220, to pay for a rather extensive water line repair that was underwater in the lake. And we've had to do this several times, but this time, even though we had money budgeted in line item 220, it took much more extensive work to get to it, and a special clamp to cover the connection, which was at a union, a bell union in the pipe. And of course, this pipe is laid underground before the lake filled, so they had to bring up a dredge and move away a lot of silt and clay to get enough room to put this clamp on. So basically, it took a whole lot more than we anticipated or we budgeted for. So we just asked for this transfer to cover that expense. It is our main and only water line on the east side of the lake from the city of Smithville.
Any questions from the commission or comments? Seeing none. Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2023-253.
Motion been made for the approval of 2023-253. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next on our agenda is 2023-254. Administrator?
Resolution 2023-254 is approving a capital project encumbrance request and proposal to replace the stormwater structure over Crockett Creek at Lone Ridge Road. This is an ARPA project, and Highway Administrator Griffin is here to provide information to the commission about this project.
Please proceed.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is Greg Griffin, Highway Administrator. This is one of our ARPA projects that has already been authorized by the Commission previously. The road stream crossing on Crockett Creek. Okay. A road stream crossing on Crockett Creek at Long Ridge Road has sustained severe stormwater damage. The structure has rotated out of alignment, girders are rusted, and structural integrity is compromised. The structure has a load posting of 15 tons, meaning that school buses, farm equipment, and trash trucks should detour, adding 6.8 miles of travel. The two-lane road narrows to one lane as it passes over Crockett Creek, and stormwater has caused a sinkhole to form at the edge of the roadway. A new road stream crossing will be built to align with the stream channel and to provide a two-lane crossing. The stream banks there are damaged and eroded. The structure is no longer correctly aligned to the stream, which impedes stormwater flow. The project will also repair the stream banks and put resilient stormwater controls in place. On-call contractor Decker Construction will build a new road stream crossing using plans that have been designed by on-call consultant Burns & McDonnell. This will be a standard girder structure similar to the one shown here. The cost of the project will be $550,000. Materials will be ordered after commission approval, and construction will begin in several months after the steel is actually delivered. Construction is expected to be completed in 10 to 12 weeks. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any commissioners have any questions or comments? Seeing none. Is there a motion related to 2023-254? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2023-254.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2023-254. Further discussion? I see none. You are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner. Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next item on our regular agenda is 2023-255. Administrator?
Resolution 2023-255 is approving the capital project encumbrance request with buyer's order and formal proposal for the replacement of a water tanker for the Highway Department. Highway Administrator Griffin is here to talk about the project.
Please proceed.
Terry Griffin, Highway Administrator. This is a request to purchase a replacement water tanker for the Highway Department. The total cost of the new truck is $211,574. A down payment of $90,575 will be placed on the truck at the time of delivery, and that will be the insurance proceeds. The annual payments after that will be paid out over 3 years at about $43,358. In October of 2022, the Highway Department water tanker was totaled in a rollover accident. The insurance proceeds, as I said, will be used to help with it, or to make the down payment on the truck. The packet that you received contains a sample lease agreement from Kansas State Bank, and as well as some documents for you to sign about that. The new truck will be a Mack Granite 64FR tandem axle with an Allison transmission and a 4,000-gallon Klein trapezoid tank. The price also includes several warranties on the project. The truck is expected to be delivered in spring of 2024. At that time, we'll come back to commission to ask you to actually sign the lease agreement for for the truck. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions? Not engaging, are you? There you are, now you are.
All right.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2023-255.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2023-255. Further discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I
Please
close.
call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Last item on this evening's regular agenda is 2023-259. Administrator?
Resolution 2023-259 is a consideration of approving a temporary use of a commercial zoned lot located at 3805B Highway. And Director Jones is here to provide information about this temporary use.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning Director. So we don't do this very often, but this is a temporary use request. I've got the property pulled up on the screen. It is a request to allow the property to be used to store equipment, vehicles, materials that are used to put in infrastructure for Evergy. The request is made by Black & McDonald. The property that we're talking about is the property in blue right here. And it's a unique property because you can see the front portion of the property is located in city limits of Liberty. The portion in blue with the parking lot and the existing building is located in unincorporated Clay County. It is currently zoned commercial, C2. However, the Land Development Code requires a conditional use permit for this type of use. We would classify this as construction, sales, and service, which requires that conditional use permit. However, the Land Development Code does allow the county commission to approve any temporary use. So the initial request is to allow this use for 1 year. At that time, then Black & McDonald would make a determination if they're going to continue to use this property that way, and they would either have to go through the conditional use permit requirement at that point or come back before the county commission to extend the temporary use. I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have, and then Nick Ziegler with Black & McDonald is present if you have particular questions about the use of the property.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, would the gentleman like to come up and speak just to give us whatever he thinks is important for us to know on this?
Yes, good evening. I'm Nick Ziegler with Black & McDonald. The plan is to utilize the yard
for the growth of our company to assist with Evergy and their development plans on upgrading their electrical system. By mobilizing crews from this site, we'll have a better storm response time and availability to assist with projects in the area north of the river.
Okay. Questions or comments? Seeing none, is there anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2023-259? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2023-259.
Motion has been made for approval of 2023-259. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Carpenter,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Withington,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That concludes our regular agenda. That brings us to discussion items. There are 4 issues on this evening's agenda for discussion. The first one is the 911 device fee. That would be Commissioner Lawson. So I'll just, unless you have anything to add, Administrator, I'll just go right to Commissioner Lawson. So you're recognized to start, do you not?
Okay.
There you go. Now you're ready.
I'm new. Okay, number one thing I want to talk about.
Oh, could you speak a little bit more into your mic, please?
Okay,
Thank you.
can y'all hear me? Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the 911. I know that we're in discussion. I know that we're working with Excelsior Springs. I have a sense of urgency on this. We realize that there's not going to be other items this year on the ballot. So I thought that maybe this would be something we could go ahead and proceed with. And, you know, something that has bugged me, and I think I've said this before, but it bears saying again, is we've allowed all of this money to be paid out for a long while. And I feel like every month that money's getting wasted. We could use it for roads and bridges. We could use it to give raises to our people. We could do a lot of things with it. But it's going to 911, which is a worthy cause, don't get me wrong. It is a vital thing. But we shouldn't have to be bearing that cost when we can do it with the mobile. Now, whether or not people are going to vote for it, that's the gamble, and I realize it's a gamble. But there's another issue this year that's going to be on the ballot that will decrease our costs a little, not a huge amount, but it'll help. So I just looking at it as though we go ahead and spend, say, $150,000 to put it on the ballot. And I had talked to the auditor, and he thought that if all things were in place, that we should be able to be seeing the money coming in from the cell phones by possibly May or June. So going on that supposition, if we did 5 months at our $83,000 that we put in there every month now, and the 150, it'd be 565. If we don't do anything and it doesn't get done, next year we're going to spend almost $1 million to do this. So, you know, another 500,000 that we could have used somewhere else. So just looking at it as a matter of economics and knowing that we've got some things coming on board, some new technology that's going to be coming on board for the 911. I'd like to see us kind of push for this. One of the things I think is that it's going to be difficult to do in a short span of time is for us to be out there talking about how this is of benefit, which it's not that it's going to be, we're not asking them to pay with something new. It's that instead of the money going off of their regular phone that they pay today, it's just going to be transferred to their cell phone. And the amount, that's another thing that I think needs to be brought up. Do we do it as $1? Do we do it as 50 cents? But the bottom line is, what do we need to do to get moving and move it along, if that is what the commission chooses to do, knowing that we've got these things hanging out there? But, you know, can we proceed, and would Mark help us to kind of spread the word on this? I know the sheriff would probably be one that would be out speaking about it, because it's to his benefit too, maybe hiring new people, you know, to man the 911 telephone system. So with all that in mind, I'm just saying I'd like to see this move ahead, whatever we need to do, and I imagine Diana would have some thoughts on that, because she's been close to the negotiations that we've been having. So that's all I have on that. So if anybody else has a...
Yeah, I'd like to add, because you're talking about a November ballot.
Yes, sir.
So the deadline, and correct me if I'm wrong, is August
Yes,
29.
that's
Do you
right.
do you feel as though that gives you enough time for this ballot issue to be constructed?
Well, isn't the wording that goes on the ballot, isn't that a statute type? There's a certain verbiage that has to be in place?
I honestly don't know off the top of my head. Mr. Counselor?
Yeah, the ordinance part of this puzzle is the simplest part. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's in the statute. You know, I've done, you know, a dozen over the years. It's a simple process. You know, I've got all the paperwork I need to put together. I can have that together tomorrow morning. So the ordinance part is the simplest part. Probably the harder part is understanding what it applies to, how it gets collected, the amount, whether, and I think you raise a great point that if we put it on for this November, you know, it generally falls to this body to get out and educate the public, because in a low turnout election, whoever educates the public the best typically is going to do the best. So yeah, those are the things that certainly I think are valid for this commission, but the actual ordinance would not take much.
No.
Okay, so the real more difficult, the heavier lift is going to be actually constructing the add-on to the ordinance, how it ends up being applied to what devices and that sort of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that. There's the hard part, the heavy lifting, as I see it, is getting out there and getting 253,000 people educated so that at least some of them will show up to vote on this, and that's a lot of work. The other hard part, the other heavy lift, is for us procedurally understanding how we're going to implement this in the event it passes. Because you know, we all think we understand what a device is, but you know, I'm just old enough that I'm confused about it. I don't know what a device is that is capable of dialing 911. We all think it's a phone, and it clearly is that. But what else? And if you've got a smartwatch, I don't know if that is an independent device or if it funnels through your phone. So the procedures and the administration from our end, and we've got to work with the vendors to make sure that they can help us implement this. That's the other heavy lift. But again, some of that isn't necessarily, I think, we need to have a good working understanding of it, but we don't have to have all those answers before we put it on the ballot.
Right, but certainly at the time that you start educating, citizens are going to have those questions, right? About what constitutes, what am I going to pay on, what am I not going to pay on? I also think one of the major things for the commission to decide is what is the fee amount that you want to propose. So we have planned to come back at your next meeting, which is in 2 weeks on the 17th, and provide more information about the financial forecast, the options, what the different levels would bring, how those funds could be used, and what that looks like. And then as Mr. Graham has indicated, one of the things we want to do is find the time before that meeting to sit down and talk to vendors. Now, you know, we're not the first one out of the gate that has implemented this, so vendors are very well aware of this, but then we have an obligation to let those providers know that, you know, if they're providing that service and those devices to our residents of Clay County, those vendors could be anywhere in the country, right? And so then we've got, because then it's our obligation to let them know. Then it's their obligation to charge the fee. and then remit that to us. So devil's in the details from that. Those things can all be decided sort of after the fact, but I think there's some key things we want to bring to the commission at your next meeting for you to make that decision if you want to move forward. And also then, again, on a November ballot, I think there are very few other elections, and so that will be the cost of the county that is not budgeted. And so those costs will also bring all that information to you at the next meeting. And we are still finalizing some things with Excelsior Springs and just got communication from them today on some of the things that we were needing from them. And they're very willing and supportive of partnering with us and to make this happen.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Lamb
There you
go
go.
first?
Well, you actually were
Okay.
seeking recognition first.
Okay, I'll go ahead
I
and
can go either way, but I was just going in order in which people sought recognition.
Okay. So just to underscore what Commissioner Lawson said, I totally agree with her. And to make it clear for people at home watching this, what we're talking about is a transfer of fees where 911 system was traditionally, historically funded in large part by a user fee by those that had landlines, phones in your house. As we switch from landlines in our society to cell phones, smartphones, that fee didn't follow those phones. And so as people have less and less landlines, that fee has basically gone away. The income from that fee, which supports our 911 system, has gone away. At the same time, more and more cell phones are out there, so the impact on the 911 system has increased exponentially. To give you an example of that, if there's an accident out here in the corner, back in the day, before you had a cell phone, you might have someone in one of the surrounding houses make a phone call, or someone might run a payphone, for those who remember what a payphone was, and make a call, and dispatch might get a couple of calls. Today, if there's an accident on the corner, you'll get dozens and dozens of calls. That's a big impact on our dispatch. And this fee pays for those dispatchers and pays for our 911 system. So it's very important, and we're kind of behind the curve on this. And we talked about some of the hurdles that we have to get over, but the fact is we're not reinventing the wheel on this, and we have a lot of other counties that have already done this that we can learn from and cut and paste, if you will, a lot of the stuff they've already done. But I'm very supportive of this. I think I would like to move as quickly as we can on this. I'm glad to hear that you're coming back next week with something. I know the devil's in the details, but obviously we're missing out on a lot of money that we stopped getting once we switched to cell phones, and yet the impact on 911 has increased, and we still have to pay for that. So instead of coming to these user fees that didn't transfer over to the cell phones, we're paying for it out of our tax coffers. I think it's important, and I bet Victor has something very important to say about this.
I'm going to go ahead and go. Like I said, I'm trying to hit these unless there's a reason not to, the order in which people have sought recognition. I will go to a commissioner who sought recognition, and then to the auditor, and then there's another commissioner who has sought recognition. So Commissioner Wagner, you're recognized.
Thank you. I tend to think this is a pretty straightforward, and I don't imagine there's going to be like as you talk about doing campaigns around this, I think really what will sell it is the value proposition and how the ballot reads. To me, if the value proposition is simply, you paid this fee when you had a landline, now you're going to pay this fee, the same fee, I think that's a pretty straightforward ask. But the other piece of that to me is the authorization to do it, to me, is almost as important, if not more so, than all the detail. Because I think speaking, to that idea that you may only be able to figure this out or execute this by June of next year suggests that it's going to take a while to get all the detail down, communicate to all of those providers out there, but you can't do anything until you're authorized to do it. And so it seems to me that the simple value proposition and the substance of that, if we can get to that over the next couple of weeks, I'll wait till June of next year to figure out the rest of it. But I think it is that important to be able to move forward and give the folks a chance to talk about it. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Mr. Auditor.
Thanks, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. I appreciate Commission discussing this tonight. I did an audit on this a few months ago, and so It's something that I think I stand by that recommendation today. I think some things in that audit I just want to bring for more clarification and reminding is, as far as the administration, my understanding is that, and we can confirm this, of course, but the Missouri 911 Board is actually the entity that collects the revenues. So it's not a matter of the county having to go to AT&T and say, hey, notice you need to, put on this new fee. They actually pay the state of Missouri, who takes an administrative fee and then remits that to the county. And then the counties, are currently our role with the 911 Board, and the funding is essentially, provide that to our entity that is the coordination for the region, Mid-America Regional Council. So in essence, the administrative mechanism would be receive the money, send it to Mark. So, as far as the apprehension on that, I guess I would just, bring that forward, that could be, I think, potentially surmounted. So that's just something I wanted to bring up, and I don't know. That was something I thought, should be added to the conversation, so.
Okay. Commissioner Withington.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Lawson and Commissioner Johnson. I think this is a good thing. I think we need to move quickly on this. If we can get it on November ballot, I think it makes financial sense for this county. We have a lot of needs, and this should free up quite a bit of money to help some roads and bridges and staff salaries. So I'm in favor of it.
Any further discussion? Do we have the administrator mentioned bringing up the issue for next week? Is that consistent with what the commission would like to see? Well, assuming so, we all seem to be.
For clarification, you're not meeting next week?
Oh, I'm sorry, 2 weeks. Yes, I
The
forgot
17th.
we have a
But the
bye week.
17th, it is scheduled to do a presentation for the commission.
Thank you. Thank you for the correction. Does the commission feel comfortable with that course of action? Looks like I'm getting head nods all the way around. Administrator, do you require any further instruction, or do you feel you have
I
sufficient?
think we're good.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Commissioner Johnson.
Clarification, if we wanted to get this on the November ballot,
Yes.
this has to be done August 24th?
That's our last scheduled meeting.
Okay. Okay, so it's possible, if we really wanted to do it, we can get it done for the
100%.
ballot for
Yeah.
November. Okay, thank
I
you.
mean, getting this, again, this is not a heavy lift to get it on the ballot.
Okay.
We just would like to be as prepared as possible for you guys to make that decision. But
Okay.
the actual vote is not a heavy lift.
What has to be decided to put it on the ballot is the fee amount that you're proposing to the citizens. Other than that, the devil's in the details that can happen after the fact.
Just to clarify, Commissioner Johnson, there has been circumstance where the commission has had a special meeting for the purpose of putting something on the ballot. So while unusual, it's not unprecedented. Okay. Mr. Auditor.
Victor Hurlbert, Clay County. I wanted to bring up a few things too. I appreciate it. I just remember back there. Back to the question about the devices. Again, I did through the audit, I asked the Missouri 911 board about what that is, and it's essentially access lines, so telephone numbers. So if you pay for a telephone number, that's what the subscriber fee is applied to. So as far as, the clarification about that. The second thing I would say is that, besides what is actually being the fee, all the counties that have adopted it have gone to the maximum of $1. So I'll put that out there as far as that's as high as you can go. But no other county in Missouri that has adopted this has gone less than that, so.
Okay. Commissioner Lawson, if you would like to, I see you're the only one seeking recognition, so if you'd like to kind of round off the discussion.
Okay, the one question I did have of our administrator is, where are we with Excelsior Springs, and how will that play into this?
Sure. So one of the things that our county councilor had asked at Excelsior was to dig back in their records and find out just exactly how it was formed. historically for them and what their voters and what that process is, just to make sure the process going forward, that we followed in whatever we needed to do for that process. And so we received that today. I believe from our conversation with Excelsior, really what will happen if the commission votes to put this on the ballot, then the next step for both the county and Excelsior would be to pass an ordinance or resolution saying that if a countywide device fee passes, then both entities would rescind their landline fee. And so you would actually take formal action on that, so the voters would understand that if this passes, then the landline fee goes away for the county residents and would also go away for the Excelsior Springs residents, right? However, if it doesn't pass, then the landline fee is still in place because we still need the revenue, whatever we can obtain, so that we can help pay and offset those costs. If it does pass, then part of that is also then Excelsior Springs would fall under the county 911. Right now, they're paying separately monthly fees to Mark for 911 services. So they would then become like all the other municipalities in Clay County and fall under the Clay County fee for 911 services. So we would be absorbing their costs, just like we absorb and pay for all the other entities. But all their residents would also be paying a device fee, just like all the other citizens. And it would be going to whatever that process is to help pay for those costs. So those would be the steps that would happen. And again, our conversations with both the city manager and their attorney, and having discussions, I think, with their mayor and their board, that they're all very supportive to be on part of this process with us. They too are having to subsidize their 911 fees because their landline costs are not covering their monthly costs to Mark also. So this would be a benefit financially also to the city of Excelsior Springs.
Great. Okay, so with that in mind, what do we need to do to get this rolling then? Do we put it on to vote on the amount and to proceed with putting this on the ballot?
Mr. Counselor, since this would be a rather legal part of the proceeding, do we need to do that? Do we need to vote to put a particular amount on?
No, I think from the staff side, I think the plan is we're going to have a discussion topic in 2 weeks on the 17th, get some direction with the idea, assuming what I'm hearing is accurate, to vote on it on the 24th. And then vote on it and walk it down to the election board and we'll be done.
Okay.
As long as it's not too hot outside. Then we may drive it down. Very well. Commissioner Lawson, did you have anything else to add before we close the discussion? Very good. That concludes the discussion on the 911 device fee discussion. Next issue for discussion is Airport FBO. Once again, that is Commissioner Lawson, so you are recognized to begin the discussion. Please proceed.
Well, I've had a brief conversation a couple times with our county administrator, and I know that the bids are in and they're ready to start the procedure. Something that I really would like to see happen is that I'd like to see those commissioners that wish to sit in on those different conversations that you have regarding the bids. And I'll say why. I am not an expert on the airport, as everybody would probably know, nor probably are any of us real gifted in that area. But the bottom line is, when this is all said and done, that little monkey is going to jump back on our back, and we're going to have to vote on it, number one. And secondly, we're going to have to live with the decision that's made. So I'd love to be able to sit in on those meetings and hear, not, I'm not going to take over the meeting and try to tell them what to do. I just want to sit there, listen as to what they are proposing to us. What is the benefit to us, for them to do this? Benefit to the county. And, in the long run, what kind of value-added services are we going to see from this this association. So that was the one thing I wanted to do, was to be sure that going forward, I don't know that we'll have 5 commissioners that are going to want to do this, but if there are those who do, and I definitely want to be there, but if there's others that want, if this is something that we need to post so that whoever wants to come can come, then I think that that's something that we should do. Not to get into running the show, but to get in to be knowledgeable about the whole thing. So when it's all said and done, we can sit here with 100% assurance and say, damn, that was a good decision, and these are the right people to do this job for us. Here's the things they're going to do, and go on down the road. So that's just my 2 cents, so I want to be involved.
Commissioner Withington.
I agree with Commissioner Lawson. I think some commissioners should probably be involved in this decision. The buck stops with us. We're listed as the owners of the airport. We weren't included in the last manager hiring. That didn't go over too well. It seems like the airport's had some problems for a while, so I think the commission needs to take more, have more of a hands-on in this selection process. And also, I would like to see that if we can give preference to a local company but a county company, I would like to see that. I always like going local instead of people from out of town and stuff like that. So I agree with Commissioner Lawson. I think we should, make sure the commission has a say in this. So.
Further discussion? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. I guess my comment would be that although I think any participation by the commission is advantageous, I do think it does need to be a little more structured than whether or not we're welcome to come to presentations and meetings, because if by chance you do have 5 folks who decide, hey, I'm going to show up, and it wasn't noticed, you've created a real problem. And so because that risk exists, you almost have to go ahead and put it out as an open meeting, which then means those who are going to come to make presentations will know that their presentations are going to be public. And that, I don't think, is something that candidates for this contract would do or would want to do, because then it can be used against them in other bids down the line. People will have to give up their secrets. What I would recommend is that, to the extent that staff can make some suggestion as to how, whether that is a participant or 2 from the commission on the committee, whether that is providing those RFP responses in a closed session so we can all read them, both of which I've participated on in the past. But whether it's those issues or those ideas or others, I do want to at least say that when there is the chance that you have to make it public, that does change the dynamic of how those presentations will be done. And there is risk on their part in doing so. So I'll leave those ideas on the table, and if there are others, then that's fine too. Thank you.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yeah, and I think that's a very valid point. However, I would think, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, but I'd want to have this open and above board as much as possible, And yeah, if that's going to divulge secrets, in the end, it's going to be, the contract is going to be a matter of public record. So everybody's going to know what they did, what they said, what they gave, what they charged us. So what maybe we want to do, I'm got to say this, I'm going to be there. I want to be there. So if there's other commissioners that want to be involved in it, then maybe they let Diana know, and we never have more than 3. If it looks like it's going to be 5, then, you know, we may have to talk about it. But I don't think, you know, Jason can't run over there because he works, you work, you know, we've got people with kids and all kinds of other issues. So if 3 of us can be there, I say hallelujah. If 4 of us want to be there, then let's post it, let's get it over with, and go ahead and do it. I seriously doubt we'll have 4, we'll probably have 3. So, but we can stay in touch with Diana above all else, so she doesn't get caught in the middle of some mess, nor do we, you know, and we do something that's against the Sunshine Law. But the bottom line is, I think we do need participation. We need to start stepping up and taking responsibility. This is a massive decision. This airport could be the biggest thing going. We've got a great marketing person now that's out there trying to pull people to that airport. We're going to have great services there now. And this could be, somebody said to me, I think it was you that said something, or somebody said something about, what if we could get, you know, a big distributor, you know, that would come to the airport. And that's a possibility. That could be a possibility. But we'll never know unless we have the services to take care of these people. So I see this as a key to success in the county, and I definitely want to be involved in it. If any of the rest of you do, great. Let's let Diana be our contact point and talk to her, anybody that wants to come, so we don't overstep.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
Couple of quick questions. Is the bidding process closed?
Yes, it is.
And, okay, 2 questions, and if you're not comfortable answering these, just say you're not going to answer them. I understand. Number 1, can you tell me how many bids we got?
I believe we have 2.
Okay. And then the process, I know some processes are fairly formal when it comes to selection process. Can you talk at all about what the process would look like?
Sure, I can tell you what our typical process looks like, especially when you're basically hiring, you know, a company for services. And so typically, the first is, you know, anyone that is part of the review process actually has to sign an affidavit saying, you're not going to talk about it, you're not telling any information, you can't talk to other people on the selection committee, because it is all independent. And so, first of all, you rate the proposals that are received. Those get a score. And because we have 2, we would bring both of them in to do presentations, right? And answer questions. And so during that process, the evaluation committee then also rates them on their presentation and their ability to answer questions. And all those scores are combined to determine who we believe is the best fit to provide this service to the county. Then that recommendation would come before the commission, and that company would be invited to come to a commission meeting to present to all the commissioners. So you would get to know them, you would get to hear from them directly about what their services are, why they believe they were selected. We're going to tell you why the evaluation committee selected them, and then, you know, answer any questions that you have and go through what that contract looks like for services. So that's typical. We did the very same thing on a much smaller scale for you all when we did the comprehensive plan and brought forward a recommendation to the company to basically facilitate the comp plan. And we brought our recommendation based on all that evaluation to the commission. So they did a presentation directly to the commission about what is the process for the comp plan. And you got to engage with them and talk about it, and maybe give some insight about more public comment, non-public comment. So that's typically what our process looks like.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think, I'm speculating, one of Commissioner Lawson's concern is, I know back, even before we were elected, on the campaign trail, we heard got a lot of pressure about the airport and the management of the airport from a lot of different groups. And I think you guys can all appreciate that. So I think because it's kind of become a little bit of a political football to some degree, I can understand the concern and wanting to be at least behind the scenes in that process. And I would think if, one or two commissioners wanted to be involved, I'd be fine with that, as long as it's not, doesn't create an issue that you could see in that process. I don't know, but to me, I wouldn't see a big issue with just if one or two wanted to be involved in it, but that's just my thought, unless you have.
No, the only thing I would say is, I'll have to double check and go through our procurement process aspect of it. Because if people are part of the process, then they're part of the rating. And then the question is the role going to be not part of the rating, but you were there to hear the presentations, and give some insight. We'll have to work through it. But,
Okay.
anything's doable.
I hear you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see no further comments. Commissioner Lawson, I would like to go to you just to close off. The other question I would have, though, of you is, are you seeking any particular consensus from the commission to instruct, or is this more informational? So if you could go ahead and give us some insights on that, we appreciate it.
Okay, no, I will always take advice from any commissioner. I might not always listen to it, but I will take the advice. No, I'm kidding. I value that very highly. I would like a consensus from my other commissioners to say, yes, Joanne, we don't have a problem with you being there and listening and, bringing that forward. So that's all I would like to see, a consensus that maybe somebody else might want to be on, but that I definitely want to, and I want their approval on that.
Okay. I see head nods, I guess. Do I not? Okay. Administrator, do you need anything further from us as far as any instruction, or do you feel comfortable with where we're at right now?
I'm sorry, did you get consensus? I was asking the county counselor,
okay.
Well, again, we'll just want to make sure statutorily, all that we cover,
Sure.
whatever that's supposed to
If
look
I
like.
can just kind of paraphrase, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner. Oh, no, your mic's still on, so go ahead and just kind of, no, you can go ahead, and I thought, rather than paraphrase you, I would let you speak for yourself if your mic was off, but just go ahead and say what you were wanting. I want to make sure that we have no instruction to give to the administrator, and if we did, make sure that she has clarification on that.
Okay. I would like to have the ability to sit in on all FBO conversations or meetings that we have. I would like the approval of my fellow commissioners. And then lastly, I would like for anyone who wants to come to make sure that they are in contact with the administrator, so that protects us from any kind of a problem.
I don't really see anything that is an additional instruction on your part, but I do want to make sure that if you seek any clarification, you have the opportunity.
Nope, pretty clear.
All right, very well.
Just to give us a heads up when there's something, when the interview, or not even interview, but when those are open, and then the ensuing meetings. Okay, thank you.
Okay. That concludes the discussion on airport FBO. That brings us to IT update and presentation/information, presentation from information technology. I'll get you right here in a moment. Please proceed.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Shaw, Director of IT. Tonight we're going to talk about some of the IT updates for 2023. So the mission statement for IT is to support staff providing services to citizens, using technology while protecting the network and the data. Whoops.
There we go.
To support the staff providing services to citizens, using the technology while protecting the data and the network. Protecting our data is the most important thing we do. It's easy for some IT departments to say, if you don't know the sender, don't open the email. But that just doesn't apply in government. We get spearphished, we get targeted. We have departments that have responded to 250,000 citizens. So we have to help in IT for the possibility that there will be emails that are phished. We will use the best-of-breed technology solutions to protect our data. Cybersecurity is our focus. What was once best practice just a few years ago, hackers have constantly tried to gain access, and our geek brains have to think a bit differently to review the vulnerabilities to find out where the nefarious activity occur. Then we patch it, apply best practices, and deter any infiltration that we can. Therefore, much of what IT does when we're doing our job well is behind the scenes. Over 3 million electronic communication requests were attempted. 38% of them were work-related. That means that 62% of the emails were blocked. Over 1.8 million emails were blocked. We responded to 2,476 service desk tickets through the year. That's about 200 tickets a month. When we took over the sheriff's office, that's half of the county. That's 100 tickets for sheriff, 100 tickets for the rest of the county. Protecting the data and the responding to those operations, that is the key to what IT does. This is the IT team as of now. More than half of this team, when Kim talked about millennials last week, more than half of this team was millennials that really geek out on this data. I want to introduce you to some of these guys through some of the projects we're working on in 23. So as you guys remember, the ARPA funds last year, we started the first step toward transitioning our PC inventory to laptops. In early 2023, IT had replaced desktop computers with laptops for those that had desktops as their workstations, which made it easier for an employee to work remotely and have a camera and microphone so that they could have web meetings. IT tech Chris Jung led the deployment coordination, and IT tech Trent Harnish was working on an inventory database that is going to be used with IT and the auditor and risk management. With ARPA funding last year, we implemented the electronic signature program. This more efficiently helps our citizens complete forms securely. In 2023, we expanded the use of e-documents in more online forms. And our IT project manager, Victoria Vasquez, coordinated the implementation and the process use of it, and also training for all of our Clay County employees. In 22, we took over operations of IT with the Sheriff's Office. So we've been working a lot with the Sheriff's Office. And in conjunction with their projects, we are helping them with the transition to Central Squared, and then we'll also help with the centralized dispatch, updating the WatchGuard body cams, the jail control system, Guard One, mugshots, and the new wireless access points that we put in detention center and public safety. Our network security team, Zach Gibb, Casey Williams, and Mark Baskell, have tackled several network projects this year. We've upgraded the county Wi-Fi. We've changed out some of the SSIDs to try to make it a little more straightforward. We've added more access points. We've also implemented a network access control solution that authenticates devices that come onto the network and then authorizes their use. This helps with our security. We upgraded our phone system. We went to SIP trunk over PRIs. That saved us over thousands of dollars. And currently we're implementing a new extended endpoint detection response program. We remember it from years ago, it's antivirus. It's done a little differently now. We'll be replacing our Trend Micro with a new endpoint detection and response. With RCA 2023-125, IT was able to upgrade our data backup system. That provides the county with the first step toward disaster recovery business continuity plans. Our systems admin, Seth Zamora, has been the tech to implement this system. And with the 2023 capital spending, we are in the middle of the Microsoft 365 migration. Of course, we know that this will make us all more secure and work more efficiently. And everybody in IT plus our vendor partner is helping us with this project. So when it comes to IT projects, IT may be a little different than some other departments. Definitely our brains work different and working on ever-changing field. But while some things constantly change with modern technology, some things never change. IT is always willing to help. You can reach us by calling, emailing service desk, come on down to the Batcave.
Are there any questions from the commission or comments? Commissioner Withington.
Hey, are we using Azure?
No,
No. Do we have any plans to move to Azure?
there is plans, but we have the Active Directory on premises now, and for us to use Azure Active Directory would be just a little differently. So we're looking at the different ways of doing it. Azure could be an option.
Because I'm trying to think, doesn't 365 come with a free subscription to Azure AD?
Yes.
And are you gonna try to implement that or do a hybrid model at least or something?
We're going to look at the differences of it because we do have Active Directory on premises. That works. We control it a little better. We pretty much are logging in Clay County, not all over the world.
Okay.
So we're comparing, we're looking at it.
And I know I asked you the last time, have you figured out what the cost savings is going to be for getting off-prem and moving to the cloud for Microsoft 365?
No.
No? Okay. All right. If you can, let me know.
Okay, all right.
By the way, could you explain Azure just for those of us who might not be quite as familiar?
Cloud environment, you have Amazon AWS. You have Oracle OCI. You have Microsoft Azure. It's just cloud computing.
It's putting it in the cloud.
That's better. Commissioner Johnson.
Kevin, I just want to say publicly thank you and your team for what you do. You guys do great work, and people don't notice it. When you're talking, it took me back when I was in my late teens, early 20s, working my way through college. I was a lifeguard in Southern California. And one of the sayings we had was a good lifeguard never gets wet, because he identifies the problem ahead of time, doesn't let people get in those situations where they're going to drown. And people don't realize it, but we saved a lot of people before we had to jump in the water. And you guys are like that, but exponentially, where you do a lot of things behind the scenes and people don't notice it because you're not necessarily jumping in the water all the time. You're taking care of stuff before it becomes bigger problems. And I appreciate that. And so thank you to you, and please let your staff know that
Thank you.
I think we all really appreciate the job that you guys do behind the scenes, and we
Thank
don't
you.
take it
They're
for
all
granted.
watching.
Oh, good. Good job, guys.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for the work you and your staff do. That brings us to our last discussion item, planning update presentation from Planning and Zoning. Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning Director. Give me just a second. Come on. Okay, so I'm going to try to be quick because you guys get to hear from me typically on a monthly basis, but I do want to talk about some of the items that I don't bring in front of the commission and my team. So to start with our team, we work out of the Schrader building. That's our building there. We're a smaller office. There's 6 of us total. It's my position. We have a planner, an office coordinator, a building inspector, a GIS technician, and a code inspector. And I have to say the building looks good. Thank you to facilities. They painted it this year, so it looks really good. So what do we do? I'm not going to talk about the land use too much. Those are the cases that we typically bring in front of you on a monthly basis. We also do the building permits for the unincorporated sections of Clay County. And we also do plan review and inspections for 5 of the smaller jurisdictions in Clay County as well. We're responsible for the code enforcement. That is a real picture from a current code enforcement case with a burned out car. A lot of the code enforcement cases are junk and debris, derelict vehicles, things like that. And then we have some miscellaneous permits that we issue as well, like floodplain development permits, land disturbance permits, and home occupations. And then really a big portion of what we do is customer service. So my staff and I spend countless hours on the phone with folks, walking them through the building permit process, questions asking, I'm looking at this land, what can I do on this land? Can I build a house, commercial use, that sort of thing. So multiple phone calls on a daily basis. Some additional details, we are the liaison to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. For 2023, we've heard a total of 3 cases. 2 have been approved, 1 denied. We also are liaison to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those are the cases that come in front of County Commission. So far this year, a total of 48 cases. 2 have been denied, 1 has been withdrawn, and the other cases have either been approved or still in the process. And then inspections. So The unincorporated portion of Clay County is roughly 220 square miles, and I have that one inspector that covers that whole territory. This year, we've issued 133 permits so far, and we've completed approximately 560 inspections. For code enforcement, we have opened 21 cases this year and are dealing with 4 buildings that are classified as dangerous buildings. So that's a really quick overview, and I would be happy to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Questions or comments from the commission? I think everybody was terribly, terribly impressed with the little curtain thing that you were doing.
I tried to hypnotize you with that.
I'm glad you made that the last thing, because I would have been dazzled beyond words and I couldn't have paid attention to the rest of your presentation myself. But, no, very good. Thank you. We appreciate the work you guys do, and it can be a thankless job. There's no doubt about it. Okay, that ends our last discussion item. That brings us to number 10, County Administrator comments. Administrator?
Just as a clarification and reminder that the commission's next meeting is in 2 weeks, August the 17th, on Thursday at 6 p.m. here in the chambers.
Okay, that brings us to commissioner comments. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to start? Commissioner Thompson? Carpenter?
No comments.
I should say Commissioner Carpenter, I'm sorry. Commissioner Wagner? Commissioner Lawson? Commissioner Withington? Well, I'm not going to, I'm sorry, did you seek recognition, Commissioner Carpenter?
No, I was just trying to say no comment on the microphone.
Gotcha, okay. Well, I'm not going to break the good times rolling here, and I will not add any comments of my own. That brings us to executive sessions. We are noticed for 2 issues under executive sessions: contractual, which is Missouri Statute 610.021, parentheses 12, and the same for legal, parentheses 1. Is there a motion related to that? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to go into closed session pursuant to the revised statutes of Missouri, 610.021, sub 1 and sub 12 for legal and contractual issues, and to adjourn from said meeting.
Motion has been made to go into executive session under contractual and legal. The statute was cited already enough times. And then to adjourn therefrom. Discussion, seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
With that, we will go into executive session and adjourn therefrom. Thank you.